evening. I hope all of you are well. All right, so let's talk about nested loops then. So we can move on to bubble sort. Again, जो आपके जितने भी concepts आप लोगों ने पढ़े हुए, they all will be like coming together and forming one large set of concepts जो कि आपके P2 में टेस्ट हो रहे होंगे, and जिस तरह का आपको क्वेश्चन आता है 15 मार्क का, 20 marks, 17 marks वाला last question. Okay, nested loop. So this is essentially a loop within a loop. And for each iteration of the outer loop, the inner loop will run completely. And its applications are bubble sorting and iterating 2D arrays. So I'll just show you guys a quick application of it. So what happens is when I write for I in range, let's say 1 to 5, and for j in range from 1 to 3. Okay, every time I'll print the values of I and j, and it should be quite visible how they both are working. You guys can ignore the syntax Python ka. Okay, so ये I की value, j की value. So I is the outer loop and j is the inner loop. So outer loop will run for 5 times and inner loop will run 3 times. So for each iteration of the outer loop, the inner loop runs completely. और इसको अगर आप यहाँ से देखो, so when I is 1, j is also 1. इसको एक दफा मैं कह दूँ बाहर. Okay, so when I is 1, j is 1, then I is 2, j is 2, I is 1, j is 3. Okay, so this simply means when I was equal to 1, आपका जो j वाला जो loop है, inner loop है, it ran completely for 1, then 2, and then 3. And now once the inner loop is complete, now you move on to the outer loop and you move to the second value, that is 2. And then again, j will repeat 3 times. Again, 3 pe 1, 2, 3. Then I becomes 4, so 4 pe 1, 2, 3, and then 5 pe 1, 2, 3. So we need this when we have to basically compare each value of an array with all the other values in the array. इसका basic application है. But इसकी और भी application होती है depending on the syntax, so depending on the logic of the program, वो हम लोग साथ साथ देखते रहेंगे. Then after this we will move to bubble sort. Okay, what is bubble sort and how does it work? So इसकी there's a small video of it, 2 minutes की. I'll just quickly go through it. Okay, so in very simple terms, you are going to arrange the array in an either ascending order or descending order. So we start from the first leftmost value, and then if any two values are out of order, in this case we're assuming ascending, so आपने इनको आपस में swap कर देना है. So at the end of each iteration, the rightmost side would be sorted. So 5 and 8, then 8 and 3, 8 and 9 are fine, 9 and 4, and then 9 and 1. So now this is in its correct position. अब अगली दफा आपको rightmost element देखने की जरूरत नहीं है. You repeat again. Okay, so अच्छा, let's think about it for a second कि अगर हम यहाँ पे सिर्फ एक loop use करें, तो your array cannot be sorted. It's not possible because after one single loop, there is no guarantee कि आपकी array जो वो उसमें सब values sorted होंगी. That is why we have to repeat the same process for each element over and over again. So 3 and 5, then 5 and 8, then 4, and then 8. अब 8 अपनी ठीक position पे आ गए, so next time you do not need to look at 8 and 9. So every time we can basically reduce the inner iteration count. So पहले वो initially थी 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, फिर 7 से 6. अब next time हम सिर्फ 5 elements को देखते हैं, फिर 4, फिर 3 इस element. So 5, 4, 1, 5. It's done. Then 2, 3, 3, 4, 4, 1, and eventually we get the sorted array. So now we have to look at the algorithm of it. So इसके video के end पे भी देखो ये algorithm इसका आपके पास एक outer loop है, एक inner loop है, then you're checking if the current value is greater than the next value. So you will be swapping them both. अब ये जो swapping mechanism है ये हमने खुद से लिखा है. Okay, how does that work? So let's look at it. इसके पास पेपर में ना बहुत सारी वेरिएशन है, so it totally depends कि आप जो कौन सा वेरिएशन कह रहे हो. मैं आप लोगों को एक प्रोसीजर से करवा रहा हूँ. अगर आपको प्रोसीजर से करना आ जाए तो फंक्शन से इट्स इवन ईजियर. So I have an array with random values. I am running a procedure जिसमें आपने एक array भेजी है. Again, like I said, कि array की जो values होती हैं वो by ref हमेशा pass होती हैं in pseudocode. Okay, not in Python. You don't need to write it. Okay, so initially we'll assume that the array is sorted, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5 items. So first of all, we have the item numbers. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So इसको हम 5 पे सेट कर देते हैं initially. The point of items would be कि आपके पास जब भी कोई वैल्यू सॉर्ट हो जाएगी ना, तो then you don't need to look at it. So that means you will run the from, instead of running it from 1 to 7, next time you run it from 1 to the 6th index, then 1 to 5th index, 1 to 4th index, 1 to 3 index, 1 to 2 इस तरह लेके. That is also going to make your code a bit more efficient. And then we can also add another check of sorted. So जब तक आपकी array sort नहीं हो जाती तब तक you keep on repeating the same thing. So अभी आपकी array sort नहीं हुई तो you keep on repeating, and every time you check if the array is sorted. How do you know if the array is sorted? If no swapping was done. If any swap was done, that means कि array sorted नहीं है. So अब अगर हम इस row में अगर हम array को check करेंगे 1 2 3 4 5 8 9, so since they're all in place, no swapping would be done. That means the array is sorted, and that's what we're doing here. So we run a while loop. Initially, we assume that every time we are going to iterate the array, that the array would be sorted. We run the inner loop from 1 to item times. Again, ये आपका जितने भी items हैं ये हमें given होंगे. We have 5 items. By the way, this is going to be 4 initially. मैं आपको इसका reason बताता हूँ 4 क्यों होगा. Okay. So what we have to do is we have to compare the value at the current index with the value at next index. So this is the main part here. If you use 4 here, so जब यहाँ पे 4 होगी inner की value, तो 4 plus 1 would make it 5, which is correct. It simply means that is 9 greater than 20. But if you make it 5 here, so जब next value पे आप आओगे तो 5 plus 1 would make it 6. But there is no 6 value. So after 20 there is no other value. So that is why whenever we have the inner loop working, we always go for number minus 1 times, the length minus 1 times. ठीक है ना. Again reason क्या है कि जब आप second last element पे होगे तो it will compare it against the last element, and जो last element है इसके आगे कोई value नहीं है. So if you will try to compare it with the next value, there is nothing there. So ये error आ जाएगा. So there should be 4 here. Okay. Now how is the swapping done? So यहाँ मैंने glass की example लिखी हुई है. I'll use the same thing. So let's say we have 3 glasses. So you have glass 1, 2, and 3. You have the pink, you have the purple, you have the blue. So let's say you have maybe some oil in one glass and water in the other glass, and you want to swap their contents. इसके सबसे जो इसका normal और जो logical procedure होगा ये होगा कि you will bring the extra glass in, and then first thing that you do is you pour water in the empty glass. Then you pour the oil from the pink glass into the blue glass, and then you bring the water from purple into the pink glass, right? So अगर इसको मैं बिल्कुल simple terms में लिखूं, so अगर glass 1 है आपके पास, इसमें oil है, glass 2 में आपके पास water है. Now you want to swap these, so you need to bring another glass in. So सबसे पहले glass 3 में you can put in oil, so ये अब आपका empty हो जाएगा. Then you take water and you bring it into glass 1, and then you pick the oil from the extra glass and you bring it into here, और ये आपका empty हो जाएगा. Okay, so बिल्कुल keeping this analogy in mind, this is what we have to do it in pseudocode now. So what we're doing here is we are going to check if the values are out of order. So this is checking if the values are in ascending order. अगर descending order करना है तो आपने greater than sign को less than कर देना है. So you are putting the first value in the glass, then so इसको हम साथ साथ ट्राई करते हैं. 12/3. So अभी glass में आपने क्या किया, आपने जो भी current index की value वो है 12. So we save it in the glass. So I'll just call it glass. You can again literally call it anything. This is just for an example. Okay, we save 12 in glass, and then we're saying the value at the next index should come on the next index. So ये जो 3 है आपका जो next index की value वो आपकी 12 के ऊपर overwrite हो जाएगी. All right, and then the next value that saved in the glass will be brought onto the index plus 1. So glass में 12 था, so we bring it into the next index like this. ये आप लोगों का bubble sort है. Okay, this is all of the bubble sort. This is done in a procedure, and then what we're doing here is we are doing items minus 1 outside the inner loop. The reason is कि अब जब next time ये आपका loop तक चलेगा, you'll start from while, and then instead of items running from 1 to 4, now they'll run 1 to 3, because as we saw that every time one loop is completed, आपका जो राइट मोस्ट एलिमेंट है वो आपका सॉर्ट होता जाता है. सो जितने टाइम लूप चलेगा उतनी वैल्यूज आपकी राइट मोस्ट साइड पे सॉर्ट हो चुकी होंगी. So this is how it's going to work. So there's like multiple implementations in this together. और यहाँ पे देखो, अगर तो आपकी वैल्यू जो है वो आपकी आउट ऑफ ऑर्डर है तो आपने सॉर्टेड को फॉल्स कर देना. दिस मीन्स कि सिंस द स्वैपिंग वाज डन द array is not sorted. And every time we will go with this assumption that the array would be sorted this time. ये assumption है, ये आप इनको change कर सकते हो. You can make it false initially and then you can make it true in here, etc. Okay.